We are back working on the V8 350Z. Let's get back into it. Well, since the last video, I have been doing a few things off camera, just half an hour here or there, so there's no point really setting up the camera. So we'll just take you over to the car and show you up to. Right, so since the last video, I have put the headers on. You'll see them down there. I have also fitted the fuel line that I was missing and fitted new spark plugs and the kind of coil pack wires going to them. I've also got this, I think was maybe a kind of evap line or something, or a kind of breather line for the fuel, so I need to connect that. I kind of finished the airbox. So that's looking okay, and I've connected the exhaust and everything back up once I get the manifolds on. So, oh yeah, some other stuff in the inside. So I got all the dash fitted. I think I put some pictures up on Instagram. So we've got all the dash fitted, everything back up, cut it round about the roll cage there, as neat as I could get it. I've also put these A-pillar trims back in and cut them around here, but I think I may just cut them off here. Because they're a little bit kind of, don't know, they don't really go anywhere. They sit further away, further off here than they are. They're quite tight up here. So yeah, I might just cut them down there at both sides, and that'll let you see a bit more of the kind of cage part, and I can paint it and stuff. So it just, there's nowhere for it to really finish up in these corners. So if I cut the plastic down here, kind of fill them, sand them, and then do the rest with a bit of paint. I did make another carbon roof, not for this car, just because I could, so that one's up for sale just now. I have put the wiring back into the car. So I needed the wiring to control like the rear lights, the boot release, things up the back there. But obviously this has got a lot of stereo wires in it and a lot of airbag wires, which obviously we don't have airbags anymore. So I'm going to have to slice all this harness out and discombobulate it. We only really need the one for the fuel pump, which is down here, and the ones for the back for the lights. And that's about it really. There's kind of stuff here for the seats, electric seats and other bits and bobs, but don't need any of that either. So there's a good bit of kind of work in there, splitting all that apart. And also, I haven't shown anybody this yet. I've got the carbon fibre bumper back for the body shop. So I've got that kind of test fitted. It was more or less just to get it out the way, because it's just sitting in the way. So I could take that back off. I'm going to fit the lights. That's what all the wiring is down here for. Fit these lights onto it, and then I can get that put on. That keeps it out of the way. So yeah, for the next little while, I need to figure out all the wiring here for the Haltech Rebel system. Now, I'm stuck, but I don't know how this is all going to go together. So obviously the Rebel, it works the V8 engine, and it's a standalone unit, I suppose it would be, but then the Nissan still needs its own ECU and the body control module to control the other stuff. Don't know how the two interlink, don't know if they need to interlink. And I've also got the Haltech dash here, which I need to make a little surround housing for it, which will take place, swap places with this. So this will come out, and then I'll make something for the Haltech digital dash to sit in there. Yeah, I've been trying to kind of look at all the wires, and most of it makes sense, and most of it is just plug and play, but there will be a few things like the pedal. I don't think you get an actual pedal adapter. It'll fit into that. You get one that is very close, so this is the one that comes with it. So it's like this one here. It's very, very similar, very close, but it doesn't actually plug in. So whether these wires are the same orientation as these wires, that I can just deep in it and put it onto this one, that would be good. I'll need to check out what the pins are on this and on this. Could maybe make that one work. The other one would be the gearbox sensors. There's like a reverse lockout and something else. There's two to go into the gearbox. Again, they don't fit, so we need to figure out how we get them to work. Again, there's only 2 wires in each sensor, so it could just be a case of unpinning them and wiring them into a different clip. So yeah, stick you up in the stand and we'll see how far we can get with this. Okay, so I've got all the main wires all tucked along inside here. It's all pretty neat. Then there's a selection of wires that go down that way. A couple of wires that I'm going to have to adapt. So this is the signal wire for the alternator. I think I've already said that, but I think in the LS engines the alternator must sit down on this side somewhere, whereas in the conversion for 350Z it's down in here. So it's not going to reach, so I'm going to extend this wire out before I can plug it in. I've got a couple of wires down here that will be my fans for the radiator, so I need to wire them up. So I've also got the power cables for the starter motor and the alternator that I need to route down. And again, on the 350Z as standard, the starter motor is down in this side, which is this shorter kind of wire. But now in the LS, my starter motor's down in this side with the LG conversion. So what I'm going to do is I've stripped a couple of wiring harnesses I've got here. So I've got 2 sets of the alternator and starter cables. I'm going to see if I can just use the long one from each harness to reach me where I need to go around there. So that takes care of that. I've also stripped off the rubber grommets from the original harness, which go up here. The Haltech system comes with a rubber grommet, but it's too small for the 350Z cutout, so I'm going to adapt the original one to take those wires, and I've also got the original one that sits up here, so I'm going to adapt that and get all these wires kind of inside there, tighten them up a little bit, which shouldn't be too hard. So inside the car, done a little bit of work just to make sure everything's going to fit where I want it to. Wait till we get a torch. Right, so on the inside I brought all the cables through, plugged in the ECU just to see what I had left wire wise. So these, I think these are kind of accessory wires, inputs and outputs. Basically, if you want to add anything on, any sensors on, this is what you use, which I'm not going to do for the time being. I've got a cable that connects to the digital dash, and there's a couple of little wires here, so a couple of signal wires and stuff I need to make sure connected. This is, I've got a throttle pedal down there, but this is just from my own reference point here. So this is obviously a 350Z harness, whereas I think it's this one is the one that comes with the kit. So totally different. I just need to trace that these wires match up with these, and then I can maybe repin that to connect up to there. So that kind of takes care of everything in here, apart from, we've got a fuel line cable here, so the fuel line wire needs to go up to there, and then I just need to get a positive from the negative from the battery area down into here, and then we will mount the ECU just similar to where the standard Nissan one is, just kind of up in here somewhere. I just want to make sure everything reaches where it's supposed to reach, and then we'll start mounting it up. But yeah, I've got a couple of cables that I need to tidy up first. Won't bore you with all that. I'll bring you back when everything's in place and looks a bit neater. A little bit more progress. So the intake is now off. I have took the radiator hose piping that's off, gave that to young Finlay again. He's going to put a little nipple on it to connect onto this steam port here. So that'll go underneath the intake and come into that radiator pipe. Hopefully get that back in a few days. The wiring side of things from the LS Rebel kit, which is pretty decent to be honest. Everything's kind of where it needs to be. There's a couple of bits when put onto a 350Z that's slightly different. Well, they give you a wire for a radiator fan, but this is a 2-speed fan, so I've used the other accessory wire to go to the other fan. So as you can see, I've kind of wired them both in, brought them up, and I've put the earth into this piece here, which is what your main earth for the harness is in both sides. So I'm hoping the tuner can then dedicate the accessory cable to this other fan. That's one thing. The other thing was the alternator cable was in this area as well, so I had to extend that. So what I did is, I'll tidy it all up now, but basically I stripped a loom to get the alternator adapter and took the wiring off it, and I've basically joined it in here somewhere, ran it round about the back and down and back to the alternator, which had to actually come off. You probably won't see it, but way down there is the alternator, and the connection for the plug sits behind a kind of metal block, part of the engine block. So you basically need to release the alternator, let it slide down, plug it in, and then put it back up and bolt it back up. But that's fine. So with those, I think I showed you the last time, I used the original alternator cables, the 2 long ones, so I've routed them around here. So basically the starter motor is away at the back here. I've routed the cable along the back up. I've put 2 holes through here that I've started a little bit of rubber on. So those go round there, round about that bulkhead and back to the battery. Now only one of them, only the alternator one, was long enough because the starter motor basically is at the back and runs its way back round. That's a bit shorter, so I'm going to have to extend that to bring it to this other post here on the battery connection. So yeah, that was that. The gearbox underneath, so the gearbox is the Haltech wiring system comes with the reverse sensor, and it comes with a speed sensor, which would usually go into like a Tremec box. I think that's how you see it, but the Nissan gearbox doesn't have a speed sensor in it. Nissan 350Zs at least use the 4 wheel speed sensors to then calculate your speed. So I don't know how we're going to run that, how we kind of tie it into the Haltech, but we'll figure that one out later. So just now the wheel speed sensor is just taped up at the gearbox and secured up. So I've got this kind of grommet bit in here to kind of save these wires touching the metal, so that's in. It's not as tidy as I would like just because of the amount of wires coming through, but it is on and it'll protect the wires. And also I've used again, took the grommet off the factory harness and used that for these wires going through because that one was too small.
Myself, you know, went through every number on my telephone. I thought that all I needed was someone to hold, but I was wrong. I never thought that maybe I needed a friend. You have always been there together till the end. I thought that all I needed was someone to hold, but I was wrong. Finding love ended in disaster. No such thing as happily ever after. Love ended in disaster, disaster. Now I'm free. You show me that I don't need somebody. I only need myself, now it's just me. I'm gonna be free, be free. I'm free.
Well, that's not too bad if it works. I've cut quite a bit of the harness out, so that just leaves me with the main connections that run along beside the driver's seat, then come out. So as you see, I cut all this away, this part of the harness, which in my mind, I'm pretty sure it was all the audio and the airbag stuff, so not looking to keep any of that. And the rest of it just went, so main bit comes round to here, and that connects to the little harness in the boot area that connects your boot release and the bumper lights, number plate lights, and I think it maybe goes down to the 2 sensors in the diff as well. So they just basically plug into a little bit still in the boot. All good. These wires, I've not figured out what they are. I thought to begin with it was maybe the boot, so the boot lid, so the third brake light in the boot lid, which I thought was this brown one, but it doesn't seem to fit into the one in my boot lid. So whether my boot lid's different or not, I don't know. And then I also thought maybe it was the lights in the headliner, near the windscreen, but I brought a headliner down from the rack and none of the plugs are the same, so I've decided just to keep them in case it's something I need. Because it's in with all the rest of the lighting kind of harness side, I thought I'll keep it in case it's something. And then the other two bits is just the fuel pump harness there, which I'll maybe need some of the wiring from, but I think the Haltech makes the pump run. It comes with it live, but these are obviously sensor wires for the level, as well as the level in the passenger side. And then there's this little plug here. I don't know if it's maybe something for another car, like an option. You can plug that in, but it's got a little, I don't know if it's a relay or something, but wait to plug it back in. Might be a wee relay or something in there, I'm not quite sure, or just a wee blanking cap. So I just left that in there. But yeah, took all that out, like plastic and stuff, and then all this. So I'm going to keep it. I've kind of, at the end here, I've just taped up all the ends so that they're easy to find, and if I ever need anything, I can just go back to this and trace the wire and take it out of the harness. I'll just put that in a bucket and stick it up in the rack for now. So while I was doing all that, I finally brought back the tube with a little vent port in it for the steam line, so that obviously goes into this steam line here. So that's connected up, pipes back on, intake's back on. So the only thing in engine bay to do is the vacuum lines, as I told you before, so I need to look into that next. So I'll get this wiring harness in, and I don't know, I might do a bit of painting on the inside, or I might look at the vacuum lines to see which fittings I need. A few days have passed, so I had to order some new vacuum line it didn't crush the stuff I had ordered before, which says it's vacuum line when you order it. Actually kind of just squishes really easily, which would have been not much use. So yeah, ordered this reinforced stuff. So last bit of this engine bay I need to connect, so you see these outlets here and the one here. I need to tee all these together, bring it round the engine bay and up to this one here, and that'll be the vacuum lines for the engine. There's one more for the brake booster, which is over there on the 350Z, and the port for that is away buried in there somewhere. Don't know if you'll even see it, but it's in there, so I need to run a line from there over to the brake booster. So easy as that, and that'll be the engine side, the stuff finished for now. Let's do it.
You're leaving out the door and say I don't know when I'll be home. Like needles in my heart, it's tearing me apart, just trying to find a light in the dark. I know that you're afraid, believe me when I say it's alright, we'll get by. Our colors fade away, I hope it's just a phase. I tell myself that we'll be okay. So hold on to me, baby, hold on. Put your hands into mine, wanna feel you close. So hold on to me, baby, hold on. Got our souls intertwined, I'm not letting go.
So since painting the inside of the car, which was about last week or something, I've been messing about with this, which is basically a copy of the Haltech IC-10 dash. So I printed this, and then I was trying to print a kind of mountain housing, so something that would just sit inside. I started off with this one, which this was a kind of online file I bought for like £5 or something. Printed that out, and then I asked my brother, who does a little bit of 3D print, if he could do me an offset of it, which was this first one, which failed a little bit on the printer, but that was my fault. So after I'd printed this, I realised that I needed it to be more, kind of more solid, a bit more beefy about the bottom of it, where I wanted it to mount onto. So this is like the bottom of the dash piece, so basically I wanted to mount it onto this somehow. So my brother reconfigured it for me and come up with this one here. So that's like a standalone piece that will sit onto that part, and basically the wiring harness come out there, and then I need a little cover bit there at the back to cover that little metal bracket there that I've kind of trimmed down with the grinder. So that was like the second or third one. Then I decided, once I seen it in, once I seen it in, I decided I wasn't really liking this kind of sharp edge, even though it was kind of suited the shape of the screen. I wanted it a bit more curved, just because the 350Z's got a curve on it. So and then come up with this one here, which has a nicer curve to it, a bit more of a sweeping curve. It sweeps down to kind of the angle of this here, so it kind of meets up there, so it curves into it again. So the other one stuck out quite squarely. So yeah, got that one mounted up the back piece, sitting as a little angle off it. So this is all printed in PLA, which in sunlight can kind of soften and deform. So I have just printed hopefully the final part, which is in PET G, which is a bit stiffer. So I need to trim it all up, glue it together. I had to print it on a different backplate, which gives it a kind of carbon fibre effect, but plan is to sand it all and paint it, so that's going to disappear anyway. So I'm going to get these trimmed up and all fitted together. This is like a little angle, so as you can see in this one, it kind of just takes up this little gap here from where this kind of stops and starts. I'm not any good at designing 3D printing. My brother's a bit better at it than me. I feel like I've asked him to do quite a lot, so I could do this. I managed to make this piece myself, which is good, and modify this a little bit. So yeah, stick you on the stand and we'll get this built up and see how it looks.
Would you love me better if I could? Would you love me better if I could? I wonder.
Well, I think these parts have came up alright. I think if I was to do it again, I'd use a high build primer rather than just a grey primer. That way it would have filled in a little bit more of the pinholes and stuff. But yeah, it's quite a kind of nice satin finish on it. So let's get it built up and see what it looks like in the car. Well, that's it, kind of done. I need to find a way to fix this back plate on. I don't want to glue it on because I want to be able to take it back off, so I'm thinking maybe magnets of some sort. But yeah, I think, well, obviously it looks better with it. A little bit of 350Z-ness about it, and obviously hides the wiring harness quite nicely. Let's see if you can get in there to see it, but it's in quite well. I'm happy with it. So what we got left to do, just a little bit of wiring. Need to wire in the accelerator pedal, wire in the fuel pump. I am waiting for Chris from Dynatune, the local tuner, to come and just talk me through a few things, and then after that we will get all the lubrication in, the oils and clutch and brake fluids, and I need to get power steering fluids. And then, so hopefully in the next couple of weeks, we will get this thing fired up and I can finally hear it after 7/8 years. So yeah, if you're excited as I am for that, stay tuned. Hopefully it won't be too long. Take it easy.